Bartholomew Town, bringing Rhode Islanders closer to their world since 2018. Brought to you in part by the University of Rhode Island Online, Newport Film, Half Street Group, Navigant Credit Union, and the Audubon Society of Rhode Island.
Bartholomew Town.
Welcome into Bartholomew Town. I'm Bill Bartholomew. Always great to spend some time with you out there. Remember, you can find every episode at ripodcast.com or wherever you're listening right now. And follow me on Instagram, X, all across social media at Bill Bartholomew for breaking news and other content that we bring you whenever it's relevant. And today, an interesting discussion that I think it kind of feeds into a conversation we're having at this moment around immigration. And it's also, as a standalone conversation, something that I find really interesting that has its roots in, well, a lot of different places, but inclusive of right here in Providence with New Majority Capital. David, I guess the best thing to do is if you want to introduce yourself to the audience, and then we'll kind of get into your journey in this entrepreneurial landscape that you found yourself in and some of the challenges of the moment for folks like you.
All right. Thanks, Bill. Really happy to be here. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for the past, I would say, close to 15 years. I'm originally from Nigeria. I moved to the US in 2021. It's been great being a part of the Providence entrepreneurial ecosystem, and also being able to use that as a springboard to achieve, some of what I've achieved, which is, one, starting a startup, a technology startup in Providence, and then going on from there to acquiring a $2 million landscape construction company in Bridgeport, Connecticut. I would say that aside from being an entrepreneur, I'm very active. I'm a youth leader at my church based in Providence. I'm also one who counsels, advises a lot of entrepreneurs. I think in the course of the conversation, other aspects of my journey, would be highlighted. Quick one on the educational background. I have my first degree in accounting, and then I have my MBA at Babson College.
Nice. And so you came through a program here in Rhode Island that we've talked about on the podcast in the past, but it's been a while. So tell the audience what New Majority Capital is and how you got involved.
Okay, awesome. So New Majority Capital is an impact investment organization. It's two parts to the organization. One part is the training side, and then the other part is the investing side. So what they do is to support underserved entrepreneurs in their journey to acquire businesses. And how they do that is through two structures I told you of: a foundation that basically provides the non-financial support, the training, the exposure to the opportunity itself, and the guidance, the advisory through the whole process, as well as then the investment vehicle which invests in these businesses. How I got to meet New Majority Capital is very interesting, and for me, something that I would always cherish as a value that I got from interacting in Rhode Island is I started doing research for my tech startup, which is called Venture Nation, an idea I had to basically find a way to connect entrepreneurs with resources at scale. And while doing that research, I kept looking out for resources locally to help me. I met various support providers, including Amy Erickson, who worked at the time at One Innovation Studio. Now she's at RI Commerce, right? And she did something for me that I would never forget, which is she decided to put my survey in a newsletter just to share with the entrepreneurship community to see who is going to help out. Just, fill a survey. David's trying to learn more about your challenges, that kind of thing. And that's how Hevo Rodriguez, the CEO of New Majority Capital, was actually on that list. And, he saw that survey and he reached out to me and said, hey, yeah, I know you're trying to do this stuff, but I have a different idea for you. And I was sold, the very first conversation we had. So that's, and this was August 2022. And that's how I started the whole journey of, entrepreneurship through acquisition.
When you came through New Majority Capital, what was the first business that you got involved in, and how did you grow your portfolio to where it is today?
Well, the very first business that I found was, the whole starting point we get into, business acquisition is searching for businesses to buy. Well, actually, prior to that is defining what is your criteria? What kind of businesses do you want to buy? So they guided me through that. And then the very first business that I found that I was looking to buy was actually a transport company. It was a FedEx, Amazon, I believe. Amazon, I think it's DSP. It's like a delivery service, where, I mean, we all see the Amazon trucks, but many of us don't know that they're entrepreneurs. It's not just run fully by Amazon. They're entrepreneurs behind the scene who run those businesses. So that was the very first one. I really fell in love with it. The whole growth in e-commerce and the fact that, deliveries are happening every single day. I thought that was a great opportunity, but that didn't work out. But I mean, that's the journey of entrepreneurship through acquisition. Until you eventually find the right deal, you just keep looking.
Are you based in Providence now? And what's sort of your relationship to Rhode Island?
Oh, well, interesting. So I had to move to Connecticut after the acquisition as part of the requirements to, obviously oversee the business we acquired. But that said, I'm still very much involved in Rhode Island. I come to Rhode Island, I mean, very often. I still lead the youth team at my church, based in Rhode Island. So that's one. Number two is I attend some of the stakeholder events that do happen. There was an event hosted by I think is I can't remember the name, but Boston Impact Initiative were in Rhode Island recently for some kind of impact investing workshop. So I was also at that event. So I typically come down as often as is required. I also was in conversation with someone earlier in the month that, I mean, sometime last month, that really was looking at how the whole entrepreneurship through acquisition opportunity could further be scaled within Rhode Island. And I made known to the person that definitely I'm pretty interested in that, both sharing my experience as well as participating and getting other people into that pathway. And finally, I've also spoken at certain events in Rhode Island to share my entrepreneurship through acquisition journey.
All
And
right.
by the way, my parents, my family members still are based in Rhode Island, so that connection is very strong.
So it's a strong connection, and yeah, if you've got family in Rhode Island, that's definitely that's a tie right there. We'll put it that way. That can become multi generational. Let's talk about your journey and how you arrived in the United States. What was that like for you, and when did you arrive in the United States?
I would take it from a very interesting because so I always because I have family members here in the U.S., specifically in Providence, Rhode Island. I've always come in, from time to time, just visiting. Come in, go back, come in, go back, which has been, that's really been the experience, and just having to experience the U.S. and meet people. That's one, and then I came in 2021 to do my MBA. At the time, I realized I needed to expand my knowledge. I've been an entrepreneur for 10 years, and I thought, hey, I need to be able to do more, I need to grow my network. I need to grow my knowledge base. So I decided to come down to, for my studies in 2021. So I applied, went through the typical process. You look for a school, you apply to schools, and you get admission. Then you apply for visa, and then you come down. So pretty much that's how I came through in 2021.
What's your status right now in terms of visas, and how is the moment that we're seeing right now around immigration, the Trump administration's policies, how are they impacting how you're planning your future?
I'm still on that student visa. I mean, there are various subs. I mean, within that student visa, there's various components of that, right? You have, the ability to, at certain points in that visa, to be able to work and do some work and be able to study and things like that, which is what I'm doing. In terms of the new administration and some of the policies that have been introduced, obviously, there's been a lot of anxiety among a lot of students or a lot of people generally, who are, immigrating to the U.S. Legally. I mean, there's all sorts of different options that people have engaged to come through. So I'm speaking from, the legal point of view. So even while you're legally here, there's still some anxiety around some of the policies. However, I have on a in a broader perspective, I understand the some of the rationale behind the actions being taken, even though I think that some of the actions might be. I mean, we could use different approaches to achieve the same goal. The end goal is we want the right people to come into the U.S. and that's the whole goal. The right people being in the country and they're contributing, right? How that happens could be, we could use different approaches for that. For me, definitely, where I'm definitely exploring various options to be able to move beyond what I have now to something much more permanent, right? So that's been a journey itself. The whole immigration space and the options available, it's like a maze. It's like it's very confusing. It's very it's very expensive. It also leaves you with a feeling that, and I'm saying this not from, I mean, also from a grateful point of view, being grateful for my journey so far, but it leaves you with a feeling where, I mean, if you're coming and you want to make a contribution, what I've been, for example, the past year, having acquired a business, over at least 150 people I've shared my story with them. I'm currently supporting, and guiding some other people through that journey. Even my partner was on the acquisition, was now able to resign. It's been a job for a while, and now he's been able to resign to focus on the business he had, because now he has something that it gives him that flexibility and that freedom. So there's different kinds of people coming in, and you want to be sure that the people need help, and definitely we need to help them. And there are also people who want to make a contribution, and we should provide those platforms for them to be able to come in and do the work that really adds value to all of us. So that's pretty much it's been a really challenging process, I would say.
Yeah, it's interesting you note that the maze that the quote unquote legal immigration process creates for people is just completely outrageous at this stage, and it's gotten to a point where it's almost discouraging for a lot of folks. And I think we have a population of people who would like to be certainly legal, but they find themselves in a spot where, whether it be the system itself, whether it be the requirements or the financial piece, it's extremely difficult.
Yeah.
And we see all this nonsense with Harvard. And I mean, look, what's happening in this country right now in Los Angeles with the deployment of the military. I mean, this is wholly un-American at its core. And you wonder how far it's going to go. And as somebody who is trying to navigate an immigration system to contribute to the country, it's an interesting perspective, because a lot of people, I think, out in middle America see what's happening. They buy into the rhetoric. Oh, there's this invasion taking place, and everybody who comes from South America, South or Central America and Africa or the Middle East is here to, cause chaos or take something from other people. That's the message that's being pushed. And for some reason, according to polling anyway, it seems to be effective with a lot of the country. What's your message based on your own journey, your own experience, to people who have this sort of blanket, one-dimensional view of the contributions that those born outside of the U.S. can make to the United States?
I mean, I understand the sentiments. It's also so. For example, I mean, people talk to me because you're born and you're from Nigeria. There is that blanket. Sometimes that blanket statement around maybe being affiliated with fraud or being dishonest, right? So I get the feeling that a lot of things have happened by the wrong, or a lot of things have been done by the wrong people, quote unquote, right? Or negative actions of other people. And that's a general thing about life, right? Affects everyone. So I understand that piece, that truly many of these ideas have come from some of the experiences that have happened in the past throughout history. But at the same time, there are two things I would ask individuals to look at. Number one is to look at people on an individual basis, and be able to say, hey, okay, why is this person here? What is their intention? is that intention for good? What skills, what benefit do they bring, and how does he impact all of us? Right. So that's one part. And then number two is in the midst of the negativity, right? Look at the positive things that immigrants have brought into the nation, right? So on a collective, what are the positive things we've had? And the same way that you have the positive sides of certain things, and the same thing, just like schooling, right? We know schooling is good, but yes, there's a part where there's the excessive student debt. So the question is schooling evil, right? So I mean, we need to balance both the negative sides and the positive sides of certain conversations, and be able to look at what is a middle ground, what is the best way to have the best of what we have, the best way to have the best of immigration, and minimizing the negative side of it. But yes, there are people like us, and there are many. And I would say, yes, there are people coming because they also need help. And that's generally throughout the world, all over the world. We are built to help each other, right? So, but there's also those who are here to make a contribution. What I was doing in Nigeria is basically what I'm doing here, which is I'm, right in Nigeria, what we do is leverage entrepreneurship to tackle problems in society. And so my role was supporting entrepreneurs, supporting individuals to start businesses and to grow their businesses. In doing so, they create jobs. That's exactly what I'm doing here, where I've been able to buy a business. We've hired since the acquisition, so we've created jobs, we've preserved jobs that might have been lost if the owner had to sell, maybe had to close down the business, right? And then on top of that, I'm inspiring other people to go through that journey and to also acquire, to get into that legacy, to create jobs and to preserve jobs. I mean, overall, that's a net positive contribution to this economy. And that is something I think that is impactful. And that's just one person. That's just me. I mean, there's many people who are also in in this bucket, who are doing things. We may not know all of them, right? Who are doing things to move the nation forward. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Last question. I'm curious about just on a human interest basis. What's the entrepreneurial environment like in Nigeria, and what sort of opportunities did you have there that you know you were able to translate directly to the environment here in the United States? And what were some of the gaps that you kind of had to fill in?
Um, I was thinking through sometime last week, just reflecting on my journey, and I'm currently writing a piece which is, about how do we make entrepreneurship through acquisition much more accessible. And I realized, and one part of it is a part of the individual, right? There's a part of the entrepreneur, I mean the ecosystem. Okay, we need to provide funding, we need to provide all sorts of support systems, which new majority capital provided for me, right? But there's a part of the individual. And what I realized is that the bulk of my entrepreneurial experience came from Nigeria. And that is, a couple things. Number one, entrepreneurship is about solving problems. So guess what? We have a lot of problems. Number two is that there is converting problems into opportunity, right? So when a lot of people look at Nigeria or many African countries and they see, oh my God, there's so many problems. Guess what? Entrepreneurs are converting that to opportunities. Whether it's one person who is creating, processing agri produce, where we have 40% that are lost right now, right? From when produce from the farm, 40% of our food get lost, get wasted, and someone starts a business to process that produce into finished products and be able to sell not only in Nigeria but also sell in the US. That is converting problems into opportunities. There is the resilience, in which you're facing challenges that are bigger than you. You're facing infrastructure challenges. Sometimes the roads aren't the best. Sometimes the internet isn't the best. Sometimes electricity expensive or is not as much there. So it builds that strength and resilience in you to be able to go through challenges and be able to survive. And guess what? I face the same thing here in the US, different kinds of challenges. But the fact that I have that background of being able to, be resilient. I mean, this deal, the whole acquisition journey took 20 months. I was working, I wasn't earning an income. I mean, the deal almost fell through at many points in time. So many challenges. So, and that's one of the things you get in Nigeria. And finally, is there is this optimism, this hope that you get among entrepreneurs in Nigeria that even though things are challenging, we would scale through and we would achieve. We would definitely get things done. And there are definitely a lot of success stories of entrepreneurs who have built local, global businesses out of Nigeria and are doing well. So that is the kind of background that I came in from Nigeria. And definitely for people looking to invest in Nigeria, you want to look at things around agriculture, look at things around infrastructure, look at things around talent. Africa is going to be it's currently the youngest population. I mean, the just the mind, the massive talent base you can find there. I think that is a gold mine that a lot of people, a lot of companies are beginning to tap into. And yeah, definitely, if you want to learn, I mean, definitely just go online. Please don't go through just the negative news, right? But you would
Right.
see a lot of positive entrepreneurial opportunities in Nigeria and Africa.
Yeah, always important to sift through the negativity and the sort of commercialized rhetoric that divides people and get to the truth. Hey, David, you're the truth, and we thank you for your time today and good luck on your journey. It's already been an exciting one. You've brought a lot to the table for a lot of people. Very inspiring story. We appreciate your time today on Bartholomew Town.
Yeah, thanks, Bill, and thanks for sharing these stories. Really appreciate what you do.
Hey, thanks for stopping by Bartholomew Town. For more content, follow me on Instagram at Bill Bartholomew.